I mean, let's be real, she said, swirling her second glass of overpriced Merlot. If you disappeared, no one would even notice. She said it like a punchline, like some casual jab tossed over a charcuterie board during a Tuesday dinner party where everyone wore denim jackets like they'd all planned it. The table erupted in laughter. Her Pilates buddy practically spit sparkling water onto the shrimp skewers. Even Jim, her ex-college flame turned friend of the family, chuckled and said, "Damn, girl, savage." I didn't laugh, didn't even blink. I just looked at her, really looked. Her fake tan, her two white veneers, the way she never touched her wedding ring anymore unless it was to spin it like a coin on the kitchen counter while waiting for her Uber Eats order. I finished my wine in one long sip, wiped the corner of my mouth with a cloth napkin that probably cost more than my first truck, and said quietly, "Challenge accepted." She smirked like I was playing along. But I wasn't. That night, I lay in the guest room again, the one that had become my designated sleeping spot ever since she needed more space to stretch. The bed was too soft, the walls too thin, and the silence too loud. I stared at the ceiling fan, counting the spins until my eyes dried out. Down the hall, she was giggling on the phone. Not whispering, not hiding it. Full-on giggles. She wasn't subtle anymore. There was a time she used to ask if I wanted chamomile tea before bed. Now I was lucky if she didn't accidentally forward her sex to my number. Once, I found a text that read, "He's like a beige sofa, always there, never exciting." I didn't confront her. I just copied it, pasted it into a blank doc, and filed it into a folder titled Closure. I'd been building that folder for years. Photos, screenshots, copies of shared credit statements. A receipt for a painting I paid for that she later claimed she found at an auction. Bank transfers. A home equity application I never signed but somehow had my name typed in the co-applicant field. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. It's strange when love dies. It doesn't go out with a bang. It rots, slowly, curdles, and one day you're just a shadow to the person you built your life with. At 2:11 a.m., I got up, padded barefoot across the hall, and stood in the doorway of her bedroom. She was asleep, mascara still clinging to her lashes, phone under her hand like a comfort blanket. I thought of all the nights I laid next to her wondering why I felt so alone. She stirred but didn't wake. I stepped into the closet, pulled the duffel bag I kept hidden behind her collection of yoga mats, and walked back to the guest room. Inside the bag, one pair of boots, my birth certificate, prepaid phone, a USB with every document I'd been archiving since the day she stopped saying good morning without checking her notifications first. I sat down at the little desk in the corner, wrote a single line on a yellow sticky note. Challenge accepted. No name. No goodbye. No forwarding address. By dawn I was gone. No GPS signal. No breadcrumb trail. No dramatic final argument. Just absence. The kind that lingers. The kind that builds interest. The kind that, eventually, collects. The morning sun rose over the suburban cul-de-sac like nothing had changed. Birds chirped. Sprinklers hummed to life across manicured lawns. Karen from next door waved at our window while jogging in her compression tights. Normalcy. Fake as hell. But inside that two-story mausoleum we called home, the master bedroom door stayed shut, and the guest room bed was perfectly made. My toothbrush was still in the holder. My slippers still under the edge of the bed. But the man? Gone. I slipped out before the sky turned pink, like a ghost slipping through drywall. Took only what mattered. The duffel, the binder, the prepaid phone. Left behind my watch, my wedding ring, my tie clips. Every prop that had ever made me look like the stable, invisible husband at corporate mixers and Christmas parties. No note. No voicemail. Not even a passive-aggressive sticky on the fridge. Let her wonder. Let her sit with the silence. The binder? That stayed with me. It was 2 inches thick, labeled Personal Financial Review. But inside was a slow-cooked recipe for disappearing. Bank account access codes, old debt ledgers, screenshots of her Venmo to someone labeled Pilates instructor eggplant, printouts of title transfers, tax filings, and buried loan documents with just enough ambiguity to open a door if I needed to walk through it. Every time she mocked me for being obsessed with paperwork, I smiled. Let her laugh. By 10 a.m., she texted me, "Where are you? You didn't say anything this morning." By noon, "Seriously, this isn't funny." By 6 p.m., I imagine the panic finally crawled into her throat like a warm slug. She started calling. My number was already terminated. So she did what people like her always do. She spun a story. To her Pilates crew, he just needed some alone time. To her mom, work stress. He's decompressing in the mountains. To her new boy toy, let's just call him Brad 2.0. Probably some sob story about me abandoning her with no warning. A victim narrative, with just enough salt to season her next Instagram caption. The truth? She didn't even look. Not really, because in her mind, I was still orbiting her like the moon. Dull, predictable, always there. She gave me a week, tops. Said to her sister over FaceTime, "He'll come crawling back. He always does. Men like him don't survive without someone holding the flashlight." I survived. I thrived. Moved into my uncle's old cabin, tucked in the folds of West Virginia where cell signals go to die and mail arrives whenever God's in the mood. It had no Wi-Fi, no neighbors, and no HOA telling me to repaint the shutters. Just silence and time. You'd be amazed what silence can teach you. I went numb the first 3 weeks. No rage, no sadness. Just detox. Like scrubbing tar off your lungs after quitting a lifetime of cigarettes. You realize how addicted you were to being needed by someone who didn't see you. Then the calculations began. With a laptop running off stolen gas station Wi-Fi and a prepaid data stick, I started watching her. Not through binoculars, but through the county clerk's office and social media. Public data is the internet's ugly stepchild. No one hides there. She started posting again. Beach photos, deep quotes about finding joy, and thirst trap selfies with new marble countertops in the background. Our countertops. In one post, she's popping champagne with Brad 2.0. Caption, "To fresh starts and flipped dreams." Clinking glasses, hashtag new beginnings, hashtag grateful heart. I almost laughed. He was a wannabe real estate influencer with a G-Wagon and no business license. The kind of guy who thinks escrow is a protein supplement. They thought they were leveling up. And me? I was just a footnote, a shadow in the margins. But shadows, if you know how to move them, can block out the sun. So I watched. I documented. I built a strategy like I used to build records for the county, quietly, precisely, and legally. The numbness was gone, replaced with something colder, cleaner. Detachment isn't the absence of emotion. It's the sharpening of it into something useful. She joked about my disappearance, but I was about to become the one name she couldn't delete. The cabin sat at the edge of an abandoned logging road, halfway between a dry creek bed and the kind of forest that made your skin itch with the memory of ticks. The porch sagged like an old man's spine. The chimney leaned just enough to make you nervous in a storm. But it had two things my old house never did: silence and space to think. I used a P.O. box 2 towns over, under a variation of my middle name, and registered with the utility company as a seasonal occupant. No digital footprints. No Ring doorbells. No Alexa waiting to rat me out. Just paper, radio static, and the occasional visit from a raccoon that thought the shed was his. And still, I knew everything. I knew the day she started going by her maiden name on Facebook. I knew when she posted her first photo with a caption that said, "Healing isn't linear." Even though the only thing healing was her bank account after she sold my golf clubs on eBay. I knew when Brad 2.0 made his debut in her stories. A tall, bearded real estate visionary, with a grin that screamed, "Trust Fund DUI." They posed on the front steps of my house, our house, but the caption read, "Nothing like demo day with my favorite partner in crime. Hashtag new beginnings, hashtag flip it like it is hot." That's when I paused, zoomed in, looked past the smug smiles and matching flannel. And there it was, my old ceramic address plaque still nailed to the brick. The house hadn't just been invaded. It had been repurposed. She didn't move out. She moved me out. But here's the thing. Brad didn't know what he was standing on. They were planning renovations. New counters, open concept, maybe even a hot tub in the backyard where I used to fix the mower. But the foundation? Still mine, legally speaking. Because a decade ago, when we refinanced the house for her creative studio dream that never left the mood board, the title got messy. I added certain clauses, boilerplate stuff, she said. Just sign, babe. So I did. And then I filed a few things on the side, quietly, the way someone files a will when they realize the people around them don't plan to live forever with them in it. She never asked what the deferred debt guarantee was, or why I kept a copy in my safety deposit box. Meanwhile, Brad started his little house-flipping vlog on YouTube. From dated to dazzling, how we're rebuilding dreams. Each video started with him swinging a sledgehammer like Thor on Adderall, while she clapped in her overpriced Lululemons and said things like, "Out with the old! Out with the old." That's rich. Public records started updating. Permits filed. Appraisal requests. They were planning a refinance. She was finally going to get my name off everything. That's what she thought. But remember that deferred debt? It was tied to a personal loan I had absorbed when she defaulted on her boutique lease back in 2016. The one where she accidentally opened credit in both our names. I paid it off. She forgot. But the contract didn't. I transferred the debt into a dormant lien agreement 2 years ago. Something that only needed reactivation and county stamping to come roaring back to life. They thought they were building equity. I saw it as them decorating a house they didn't own. I watched their TikToks, listened to their smug commentary about fixing broken bones and broken homes. He called himself a property alchemist. She giggled like she didn't used to cry when our dishwasher broke. I kept watching, kept documenting, not to punish, not to ruin, just to clarify things. Grim amusement doesn't hit like laughter. It hits like standing outside your own funeral, sipping coffee, listening to people misremember your life. But I wasn't dead. I was preparing paperwork. They had plans. But I had rights. And sooner or later, one of us would show up on the title. I wasn't always the ghost in this story. Before I was the man who disappeared, I was the man who knew how things worked. Not in the romantic sense, God knows, that dried up somewhere between her essential oils phase and her vegan leather boot collection, but in the legal, municipal, tax code skulking sense. Back when she still looked at me like a person and not a post-it note she forgot to throw out, I was working title research and municipal record auditing for the county. 8 years of crawling through microfiche public access systems and forgotten plat maps will do things to a man. You learn where the cracks are and how to fold a document just right so it slides through those cracks with your name still legible on the other side. And I had folded plenty. Flashback, 2015. Her boutique venture had flopped. Something about foot traffic being seasonally misaligned with her vision board. Translation: she signed a 5-year lease in a neighborhood full of vape shops and dollar stores, thinking she was opening a West Elm. We got a loan. Co-signed, naturally. She cried in the bank parking lot when they brought out the paperwork. Told me I was her rock. Her one constant. I signed because that's what men like me did back then. But I kept a copy. All of it. With the original promissory terms that, thanks to a clause I'd insisted on, allowed for the debt to be transferred to property value in lieu of cash repayment. She barely blinked. Legal jargon, she called it. That was the first domino. Flash forward, 2019. She wanted to refinance. Said we needed a bigger kitchen. I pushed back. She pushed harder. Don't you want this family to grow? Funny. We weren't even sleeping in the same room by then. But I agreed under one condition: we consolidate under a joint trust. I sold it like a tax move. For estate simplification, I said. She liked the sound of that. Estate. Made her feel like we were playing house at Downton Abbey. She never read the fine print. And me? I embedded language so dry, so bureaucratic, it might as well have been written in lint. A clause allowing me to file for equitable lien rights in the event of abandonment, dereliction, or dissolution of partnership. It wasn't divorce-proof. It wasn't bulletproof. But it was useful. Now, sitting in my cabin, I opened the binder and laid the documents out like tarot cards. The promissory note from the boutique. The refi agreement. The trust structure. Her signatures. Rushed, lazy, little hearts over the eyes like she was autographing someone else's downfall. And it was all still valid. Dormant but valid. So I made a call. Not to a lawyer, those people bleed you slow. I called Gary Langford at the county clerk's office. Guy owed me a favor from back when I caught a recording error that saved his ass during a state audit. Gary, I said, remember that trust we recorded in 2019? I need to file a lien against the primary asset under the debt transfer provision. Jesus, he muttered. You sure about this? Not even a little, I said. But it's clean. And it's time. He pulled it up. Confirmed the clause. Quiet admiration in his voice. Damn, you really built the whole mousetrap, didn't you? No, I said. I just set the cheese. Within the week, I'd filed a notice of interest. Then a debt transfer acknowledgement. Then a lien claim under Provision 12C of our trust agreement signed, stamped, and logged into the system like a ghost entering a cathedral. No fraud. No tricky. Just precision. She and Brad would never see it coming because people like them only read headlines. And I'd buried the lead in footnotes. That's the funny thing about being dismissed your whole life. People think silence means absence. But me, I was louder than ever. Just wrote my name in ink they never thought to look for. They staged the house like a photo shoot for Better Homes and Homewreckers. Wide-angle shots. Open windows with sheer curtains billowing like some budget restoration hardware ad. She wore a linen jumpsuit and smiled like she hadn't weaponized every room in that place to make me feel invisible for 5 years straight. Brad 2.0 narrated the video with all the grace of a drunk realtor at a boat show. Welcome to our latest flip. This charming 4-bedroom ranch features sustainably upgraded vibes and custom aura touches. Handpicked by my beautiful partner. She waved at the camera like she was Miss Congeniality and not missed 2 mortgage payments ago. I watched the whole thing on a burner laptop, sipping gas station coffee from a chipped mug that said, #OneDad. A cruel little souvenir from a life that used to include Father's Day cards before she decided I was redundant. The video racked up views. People loved the before and after. They never asked who lived in the before. The listing hit Redfin with a sticker shock price. Brad tagged it, an upmarket gem for discerning couples. I had to pause the video when he actually said, upmarket. Jesus. In one clip, he stood in what used to be my office, now a zen room filled with succulents and vague quotes in cursive frames. This is where we envision peace, he said. I used to write our bills in that room. She used to scream about how my Excel sheets were killing her creativity. Peace, huh? Then came the showing. Then the second. Then the offer above asking. She posted a boomerang of the champagne pop. Manifestation works. New chapter coming soon. #gratitude, #property queen. That's when things got fun. The realtor, an overcaffeinated 30-something named Skylar, called with some routine paperwork updates. She'd run a title check, per standard closing prep. Nothing fancy, nothing unusual, just protocol. Until it wasn't, because there it was, in black and white. Lien holder, name, my full name, filed 6 weeks ago. Authority, debt transfer provision, ref clause 12C. Trustee acknowledgement, verified. Skylar flagged it. Sent a concerned email with the words, clouded title, and must resolve prior to closing. Brad waved it off at first. Probably a clerical error. Some database mix-up. We'll handle it. Skylar said, it's not a mix-up. It's a legal filing. The system won't process title insurance with this in place. I imagine that's when she stopped sipping her green juice and started dialing numbers. Brad called his finance guy. She called her mother. The mother called Jesus. And the bank? The bank did what banks do when something doesn't line up. They froze everything. Escrow paused. Transfer on hold. Deposit held in limbo. No drama. No screaming. Just silence in the form of legal inertia. A quiet kind of power. That's when the panic started. Not a full sprint yet. Not the breakdown. That would come later. This was the stagger. The confusion. The dawning realization that the invisible man had fingerprints after all. She posted less that week. No selfies. No motivational quotes. Just one blurry picture of her dog and the word rough as the caption. Brad's YouTube video disappeared. Their next flip playlist went dark. Somewhere between their giggles and granite countertops, they forgot something. I may have left the house, but I never left the deed. The envelope came in the afternoon mail, wedged between a West Elm catalog and a flyer about tooth whitening. A plain white envelope with her name typed in a font too formal for spam but too impersonal for bad news. She opened it in the kitchen, barefoot, standing on the new tile she'd chosen to make the space feel less like Todd. Inside, one page, double-spaced, business letter format. Subject, property sale, title irregularity. Dear Ms. Hastings, this letter is to inform you of a title impediment concerning the sale of 48 Meadow Hollow Lane. A registered lien has been located during final transaction review. Due to the nature of the encumbrance, approval must be obtained from the listed lien holder prior to dispersal or deed transfer. We encourage immediate consultation with your legal representative. Sincerely, Midstate Title and Trust. She blinked twice, reread the phrase. Approval must be obtained. Approval from whom? She FaceTimed Brad, who answered while jogging shirtless because of course he did. Just call Mark, he panted. He'll know. Probably some junk lien from a utility company. We'll get it cleared. So she called Mark, their lawyer/golf buddy who once bragged about getting his real estate license just for leverage in divorce court. She sent him a scan of the letter. He called back 20 minutes later, voice calm, like he was still catching up to what he was reading. Okay, he said. I'll find out who filed it. Probably a bank. Could be an old equity line. These things pop up. Shouldn't take long. She made herself a smoothie, sat on the stool, Googled what is a lien, scanned a Reddit thread about title holds. Most people said it was simple, a misunderstanding, a checkmark in the wrong field. Nothing a good lawyer couldn't make go away. That night, she opened a bottle of Chardonnay and told Brad, "It's fine." He said it's probably just clerical. Brad shrugged. "Cool. Let's do dinner out tomorrow. Celebrate early." She went to bed picturing the next house, the bigger one with the sunroom. The next morning, 9:12 a.m., her phone dinged. One PDF. From Mark. Subject, lien report. She opened it, eyes scanning quickly, looking for words she understood. Release, resolved, removal. Instead, she saw lien holder, Todd A. Hastings. Lien type, equitable/contractual, filed under Clause 12C. Filing date, 6 weeks ago. Associated trust, Hastings Marital Revocable Trust. She froze. Her stomach dropped so hard the glass in her hand tilted and hit the edge of the counter. It cracked, rolled, and shattered on the floor like punctuation. She stared at the name, Todd A. Hastings. Not a bank, not a credit union. Her ex-husband. She sat down. Slowly. No music. No phone ringing. No Brad in the background making protein shakes. Just her and that PDF. Her eyes scanned the words again, and now her lawyer's voice made sense. Approval must be obtained. Approval from the man she said vanished. The man she mocked into silence. The man she erased from her Instagram, her bedroom, her whole damn blueprint. But not from the deed. Her hand trembled, then reached for the counter to steady herself. The blender light blinked in the background. The fridge hummed. Everything in that house. The granite, the dimmers, the live laugh love sign. Suddenly felt like it was sitting on top of a grave she forgot to bury. A ghost didn't just return. He'd filed. First, she tried the phone. She scrolled through her contacts. His number was still saved under T old. Like a broken appliance you never quite threw away. She pressed dial. 3 rings. Then a robotic voice. This number has been disconnected or is no longer in service. She stared at the screen. Redialed. Same message. Twice more. Same dead tone. Then came the email. She typed a subject line. Call me. Now. The body was short. What the hell is this lien? Undo it. I'm not playing games. Sent. 30 seconds later, delivery failed. No such recipient. She blinked hard, mouth going dry. Tried his old work email. Bounced. Facebook message. Account deleted. Instagram. Gone. LinkedIn. This profile is no longer available. She turned to Brad. He's untraceable, she said, pacing. He scrubbed everything. Brad wasn't listening. He was already dialing his mortgage broker, pacing with one hand clutched to his hair like he was trying to hold the roof of his life from peeling back. It's your ex, not mine, he hissed into the phone. Why the hell is my credit hanging on some guy who hasn't shown his face in a year? She grabbed her keys and stormed out in yoga pants and rage. By the time she reached the legal office, Mark's boutique practice, with its cheap leather chairs and dusty diploma from a university she'd never heard of, she didn't wait for the receptionist. She marched straight in. Fix it. Mark didn't even look up from his keyboard. You're not on the lien, he said flatly. You can't fix it. He can. Her voice cracked. Then get him to release it. Mark stood, slowly, walked to the file cabinet, pulled out a printed copy of the lien and dropped it in front of her like a dead fish. Section 12C, he said. That's the clause he activated. It gives him full discretion to withhold or permit sale. She scanned it, eyes darting like they were trying to escape the paper. This was years ago. This shouldn't even count anymore. Mark raised an eyebrow. You signed it. So did he. It's valid. The county accepted it. And unless he voluntarily removes it, the sale is frozen. Period. She sat down, slowly, like gravity had tripled in that moment. Brad called again. She ignored it. She could picture him now, jaw tight, calculator app open, realizing just how far they'd stretched themselves based on her assumptions and his ego. They'd maxed out everything. New appliances on zero-down financing. Backyard deck on a home improvement rewards card. Even the stupid wine fridge was on a promotional plan they had no intention of actually paying off. And now no buyer. No closing. No release of funds. Just her ex-husband's name, sitting at the bottom of every document like a cigarette burn on her brand new white furniture. Mark sighed, sat back down. He holds the lien now. He can stall or block the sale as long as he wants. Weeks, months, even years if he feels like being vindictive. She swallowed hard. You're saying he can just freeze everything? Mark didn't blink. I'm saying he already did. Her mouth opened, closed, no sound. Panic doesn't always come with screaming. Sometimes it sits in your chest like wet cement, spreading slowly, paralyzing everything it touches. She wasn't in control anymore. And for the first time since she laughed at his silence, she understood. He didn't need to scream. He just needed to sign. The marble floors of the bank's regional office were designed to intimidate. Cold, clinical, just reflective enough to make you adjust your posture. She clicked in on heels she hadn't worn since their engagement party, wearing the blazer she used to call her power jacket. Back when she thought business was about tone and not terms, she had rehearsed every line in the car. We're here to resolve a clerical error. This is a good faith meeting. We're ready to make this go away. She even practiced her smile. Just enough warmth to appear cooperative. Just enough chill to hold the upper hand. Brad trailed behind her, less polished, more jittery. His shirt collar refused to lay flat, and the sweat under his arms was starting to betray the eucalyptus deodorant he swore by. The receptionist led them to a small conference room. Frosted glass. Long table. Folder neatly placed at each seat. And at the far end of the table, already seated, already calm, was Todd. He wore a navy blazer. No tie. Crisp shirt. Clean shave. Hands folded loosely in front of him like he'd been waiting for this meeting his whole life and somehow managed to arrive early to his own revenge. She stopped mid-step. Her breath hitched. Brad didn't notice. He was too busy looking for a charger. Todd didn't stand. Didn't smile. Didn't speak. Just looked at her like a man studying a painting he once loved and now found tacky. The bank officer, A middle-aged woman with reading glasses and a pen she clicked with bureaucratic menace, broke the silence. "Thank you all for coming. Let's address the title hold." She nodded. "Saturday." Brad fumbled with the chair, then finally settled beside her. The officer pulled out a file. "Mr. Hastings has provided documentation confirming a legal lien per marital trust clause 12C. Recorded, signed, and processed with no contestation at time of filing." She opened her mouth. "But," the officer held up a hand. "We've reviewed the documents. His rights are valid." Todd still hadn't said a word. Instead, he reached into his slim briefcase. Of course he had a briefcase, and slid a new folder across the table. No dramatic gesture. Just a quiet, final offering. Inside, a breakdown of the debt claim. Certified copies of the trust. Notarized lien agreement. A letter of intent. The officer skimmed it, nodded. "Mr. Hastings is offering release, contingent upon full acquisition of the property via established trust assets. In short, he's buying the home outright." She blinked. "I what?" "That's our home." Todd looked at her for the first time. Not with anger. Not even pity. Just absence. Brad leaned toward her, whispering loud enough for everyone to hear. "You said he was irrelevant." She felt her stomach coil, her face flush. But still, she straightened her back. "Well, we're not accepting that. We can counter. We can negotiate." The bank officer didn't blink. "You're not in a position to counter. The lien holder has legal priority. If he chooses to hold the lien, the sale stalls indefinitely. If he buys, title transfers. That's the fork." Her voice cracked. "You're saying he can just take it?" Todd finally spoke. His voice was steady, measured. "I'm not taking anything. I'm resuming ownership. You gave it away. I'm just cleaning up your mess." The room went silent. No shouting. No drama. Just the sound of a woman realizing the man she'd mocked into exile had never left the building. He'd just switched floors. The officer tapped her pen one last time. "We'll give you 24 hours to respond. After that, the trust takes over." They stood. Todd gathered his folder, buttoned his jacket, and for the first time in a year, as he passed her by, she could smell the cologne she once picked out for him. She used to say it made him smell like safety. Now it just smelled like judgment, and he didn't even have to raise his voice to deliver it. She followed him outside like a wind-up doll coming undone, heels wobbling on the concrete, voice barely keeping up with her breath. The bank doors closed behind them with a soft hiss, like some polite goodbye from a world that no longer belonged to her. "Todd," she called, panic breaking through the last of her composure. "Wait, can we talk?" He paused at the edge of the lot, right by a black SUV she didn't recognize. Clean, leased, no clutter, no signs of a man running. Just a man who had already arrived. She walked faster now, hair whipping across her face, gripping the lapels of her blazer like it could anchor her to a reality that was slipping through her French manicured fingers. "You can't just take the house," she said, trying to keep her voice from cracking. "We lived there. We built that life together. I made that place what it is now." Todd turned to face her, eyes calm but distant, like he was looking at a reflection in water. Not the woman who once swore she'd love him until she found someone with better Wi-Fi and shinier teeth. She stepped closer. "Please, Brad, he didn't know. This wasn't his fault. We needed a fresh start. I thought you were gone. I thought you wanted out." He said nothing at first, just stared past her to the building behind them, where the bank's fluorescent lights flickered like dying stars in an empty galaxy. Then slowly he spoke. "You said if I disappeared, no one would notice." His voice wasn't angry. It wasn't bitter. It was surgical. "Turns out the house did." She blinked. He let the silence settle like dust on a forgotten picture frame, then pulled out a single sheet of paper from his jacket. An execution order from the trust. Signed, notarized, filed. "I'll release the lien," he continued. "Not for you. Not for your boyfriend. For me." Her breath hitched. "What does that mean?" "It means," he said, stepping past her, "I already bought the house. Through the trust. Clean title. Full buyout. The bank confirmed it 10 minutes ago. She turned to look back at the building, then back to him.
No.
That can't be legal. It's not just legal, he said, unlocking the SUV. It's complete. She didn't scream, didn't fall to her knees like in the movies. She just stood there, jaw slightly slack, the kind of stillness that only comes when your brain realizes too late that the oxygen's run out. Todd climbed into the SUV, engine humming to life with a quiet finality. But before he pulled away, he lowered the window. You wanted me to disappear, he said. I did. You just forgot to check what I took with me. She watched him drive off, the tires whispering against the pavement like a last breath. 15 minutes later, a moving truck pulled up in front of the house. Not hers. His. 2 men in uniform stepped out and began unloading boxes labeled in clean Sharpie lettering. Office, Hastings Trust. Tools, Workshop. Books, Cabin Collection. She stood on the porch in the same linen jumpsuit from the house tour video, but this time without the filter, without the champagne, without the man who once promised her equity and ended up bankrupt in both credit and character. And as the movers stepped past her like she didn't exist, the final box came down the ramp. Living room, ghost. And she understood. Some ghosts don't haunt you. They own the deed.